always having hard copies, not relying on that smartphone. If it dies or it gets lost for whatever reason, you can't access the information that you are required to present at a country's customs.
Yes.
Then you've always got those hard copies with you. But also, I had this experience in Singapore a couple of weeks ago where I still needed to put some information into one of their screens, and I made sure that I took screenshots of what was on the screen, because then the customs guy couldn't access it for whatever reason. These things happen.
Yes.
You know, he was getting upset. I wasn't getting upset because I could show him on my phone that I had done it, and he accepted that.
Oh, okay, that's good advice. Well, you have been traveling and visiting few places lately, and you told me this Singapore and Sarawak. Can you share your experience over there?
Yeah, certainly. Look, excuse me. I think for Singapore, it's such a popular destination, particularly here in Western Australia, either as your destination or as a bit of a transit hub before you're going to somewhere else. And
Okay.
on the two visits I've made recently, what I really wanted to discover and capture and explore was something different. I wanted a different Singapore. My program on ABC looks at hidden treasures, trying to find things that you might not be aware of, you know, beyond the big and the popular and the iconic. So we're all familiar with Singapore and the big 5-star hotels and Marina Bay Sands and the Gardens by the Bay and all of those big things. And I thought, what else is there? And I discovered this wonderful place, which you've got a picture there. And even the name alone is just wonderful. It's called the Vagabond Club. And it's a very small boutique hotel. What you can see in the background is their library, their whiskey library, that you can become a member of.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole hotel is very decadent and sumptuous. There's red velvet everywhere, and just a wonderful opportunity to spend time in a very small hotel where the staff want to tell you the story of what the building used to be back in colonial days, all of those sorts of things, and be treated just a little bit differently to the 5-star experience. And just a wonderful opportunity. And there are a lot of these small boutique hotels that are starting to open up across Singapore in those back streets. There used to be laundry houses in Chinatown. There might have even been brothels once in a time. All sorts of stories.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Next. It's interesting. Next one.
Yeah. Well, having just mentioned the whiskey club and the whiskey library.
Yeah.
So these are the keys for the members. So you pay a certain membership and you get access to certain parts of that whiskey library, certain doors. Obviously, you know, there's probably tiers there around how much you pay.
Yeah.
The sort of whiskies you can get. So some of those keys are going to open very expensive cabinets of whiskey, and others maybe a little bit less. But it's just one of the touches that they have for the hotel, that you can be a part of the whiskey library when you stay there.
Wow. Right. Okay. Next. Yeah.
What are we going to have next?
Oh,
I love this. Look, I grew up with a father in a country town who always loved Jaguars. But if there's anything better than a Jaguar, it's got to be a Tiger. And the Tiger cars were famous in Singapore in the 1930s and 40s.
Yes.
Probably before World War II, actually. So probably more of the 1930s. So the Orr brothers were two brothers that came to Singapore from Burma, and they invented Tiger Balm. They were the two brothers that came up with Tiger Balm. And the legend goes that, well, not this particular car, but one of the brothers was broken down by the side of a hill, and while his driver was changing the tyre, he looked up at the land and he saw this wonderful hill, and he thought, I'm going to buy that, and he did, and he put a villa on top of it. And he and his brother, it was there for him and his brother. Also at that time, so the sort of early 1930s, excuse me, the British wouldn't let Chinese hang out in the beautiful parks around Singapore or use the beaches or anything like that. They wanted it for themselves. Yeah. Typical colonial sort of experience. Mm-hmm. So the All brothers said, well, come to our villa. It was a beautiful hill with lots of land. If you're Chinese, on the weekends, come and have picnics. So that was wonderful. But they went one step further. They thought about the mythology and the stories in Chinese folklore, the lessons that are taught to children when they grow up, to bring on good behaviour, be good or else. And so they set up Haw Par Villa, which is the strangest theme park you've ever seen in your life. And it's representations of what will happen to you if you don't behave well. If you don't eat the dinner that your mother made for you, you'll end up on the Hill of Knives. There's representations of bodies with knives through them and blood, and there's animals with people's legs in them and all sorts of things.
I think I remember seeing that photo that you shared.
Now those tiger cars.
Tiger cars, yeah.
So the tiger cars are at Haw Par Villa. Are at Haw Par Villa now on display.
Yeah.
So they used to drive them through the streets of Singapore, delivering tiger balm. And the thing that helped get pedestrians out of the way was that these headlights would glow red, and the horn sounded like a tiger.
That's so good. Wow.
So quite flamboyant. They loved their marketing. Those two brothers. And the tiger cars is probably a great example of how you can market a product very successfully.
Great branding.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Yeah. Okay.
There we go. Haw Par Villa. That's a nice. That's a pretty good example of what you're going to see as you walk around that theme park. Just representations of grim and gruesome death.
Oh. Okay. Another one.
Yeah. And this was one of the ones I took the time to read. It was quite a large story. And it was the story of a man who had, as a child, had been saved by a tortoise. And then in later life as an adult, his ship was sinking and the tortoise came back and saved him, but didn't save anyone else. They were left with the sharks and to drown.
Mm-hmm. So there's folklore on this, yeah.
And as part of Haw Par Villa, there's a new museum experience that's really worth having a look at, called Hell's Museum. And it is the story of the afterlife. It's the story of the judicial process when you are at the gates of hell, how you will be punished for what you're doing there. If you've raped and pillaged or murdered or maybe you've said bad things about people, then you'll have your tongue ripped out or have a boulder on your back and all sorts of things. And they're all representations in Hell's Museum.
Yeah.
That are grim and gruesome, but they do tell interesting stories. And that's the Hill of Knives. And my driver who took me there, when we drove up, he refused to look to the right where Haw Par Villa was, because he'd been taken there as a child and was still traumatised by his visit as a child. So this has been there since around the 1950s.
Yes.
Hell's Museum, very new. New representations and storyboards and I guess the journey that they take you through. But Haw Par Villa itself has been there for a long time, and I thought it was interesting to be going there and have a driver who wouldn't even look at it. That sort of said something about the experience for Chinese children, and there's still school groups that they send there, Singaporean students, and it really does come down to be good or else.
Or else,
yeah.
Very, very graphic representation of culture here. Okay, next one.
Look at that. If you're anywhere in the world and there's a game of cricket, you have to sit down and watch it. And I think for me, having just described to you the reason why I wanted to discover a small hotel and a very enigmatic and different theme park, this sums it up for me as well. Is you've got Marina Bay Sands in the background, what everybody wants to take a picture of, and everybody wants to get up the top at the bar and take your Insta-worthy photos and things like that. And yeah, you should do that. It's very iconic.
Yeah.
But what else is there to do in Singapore? And just back from Marina Bay Sands, you've got the wonderful Singapore Cricket Club. And to be able to just sit and watch a bit of cricket while the busyness of Singapore is going on around you is something personally that I love. And I've previously taken opportunities when I've travelled. If I've seen a game of cricket, it might just be a couple of boys playing on the dirt in India, or a more polished county game in England, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
For me, it's special, and I think for all of us, we should be looking for the things that we find special in the countries that we visit. And it was a surprise to me. I'd never thought, in all the visits I've made to Singapore, I'd never previously thought about just watching a game of cricket.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to play hockey right here. I saw a hockey goalpost there, and I remember one time there was like competition. Yeah, this where I played.
Because you've got the view that we've got here. You've got the Singapore Cricket Club off to the right, and then off to the left is the Singapore Recreation Club. Yeah, and there's hockey and there's tennis and all sorts of things going on.
Yeah.
And it's not that far. If we were able to pan left and keep coming around, it's only a few minutes walk from the Raffles Hotel and a few of those other sort of institutions and the big art gallery as well. So it's all there, and it's easy to find if you just sort of walk a bit and you take your eye off the big iconic stuff. And I think I missed it with this photo, but further off to the left you've got the big observation wheel there as well, which is another iconic tourism experience. But take the time to find other things in your travels.
Yeah.
A different Singapore.
Yeah. Well, we move on to the other parts of the peninsula, the Borneo now, Borneo station, Sarawak, Malaysia. So, it is only recently that you have been, or when was it when you were in Sarawak?
When did I go? Was just within the past couple of weeks. I'm fortunate enough to have been to Sabah, I think it's 6 times, might be 7, I'm not sure. So the first time I've been to Sarawak, and it's certainly been a part of my travel bucket list for a long time. The opportunity to be a guest of Sarawak Tourism and to go across was something I wasn't going to miss. They had wanted me to go there a couple of months ago for the Rainforest Music Festival that they have every year, which is amazing. And I couldn't make that, but I could make it a couple of weeks ago. So I was a guest of Sarawak Tourism for a week, and we thought we'd start off proceedings there with a seafood laksa at my guide Kevin's favourite restaurant. It's sort of a thing to do in Kuching, discover a laksa and sit down and make it as spicy as you can. Excuse me. I think for me, and it's interesting, when it's in Sarawak, Malaysia, you still use the description Borneo as well.
Yes.
These are the places in the world that are exciting just to say. Just to say that you're going to Borneo and Sarawak. They're amazing places that in folklore and pop culture. I used to read books growing up that talked about Raja Brook. Sitting with his mates at the Raffles Hotel in Singapore and deciding to go off and have an adventure. Let's take on the pirates in Sarawak. So off he sailed up the Kuching River and fought all the pirates, and everybody said, that's great, now you can hang around and be our Raja. So Raja Brook became the White Raj of Sarawak, and his family for hundreds of years ruled Sarawak. Which is an interesting history in itself, but it's romantic and it's rich and it's part of the fabric of the Sarawak community. Now this is the legislature, and they've got a new pedestrian bridge going over it as well. The remarkable thing about the river, and I'm going to be doing a lot of writing over the coming months about the Kuching River, as more than just as a travel writer saying, gee, it's a really good river to go on, and there's a lot of reasons for that we can talk about. But for me, strategically, I've been to a lot of places in the world where people have actually asked me, what can we do to make us better? How can we improve, our rivers and things like this? What can we do? And I think from now on, my answer is going to be very simple. It's get on a plane and go to Kuching and have a look at this river and waterfront every day and every night, because it comes alive. The community of Kuching use this river and its waterfront every day and every night. There are street performers, there are food stalls. This part that you can see at the front of the legislature comes alive at 8:30 every night with a laser water show for people to gather and watch and enjoy, and it's all free, and it just creates this wonderful atmosphere. And you don't need to worry about when it's going to be on. You don't need to look at a website and find a calendar date, or it's not part of a themed festival that just happens once a year. This is every day, every night. This river is alive. And it looks pretty quiet at the moment, and these boats take people up and down as well, but there are wonderful bigger boats that will take you on sunset cruises, all sorts of other life on the river as well. Very impressive, very clean, and a river that's used and is enjoyed by the community.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Another picture of food. It's got to be about food. I know what you guys are like. Yeah.
No, yeah.
It's the expression makan.
Makan.
Yeah. And this is actually one of my favourites. You'd think as a big Aussie boy I'd be wanting a side of beef or something like that, or a big whole snapper. But just the fern tops, with a bit of wild garlic. Just love it. Every single meal I had, I made sure that there was a nice big bowl of that as well. Yeah. So there we go. That's a badly taken photo of the Coochie waterfront. I probably needed to stabilise that a bit, but you can see what I mean there.
Yeah.
I mean, the waters are still in, you get the reflection, but all the way along here there are stalls. So my hotel was back here. There's the bridge that we just had on the left in the previous photo.
Mm-hmm.
The legislature's over here on the right, and you've got stalls and performers all the way along. Just a beautiful example of what a community can do with a natural asset.
Yeah, this happens every night.
Yeah. Every night.
Not just weekends.
So, I mean, I think from maybe as early as sort of 6:30, 7 o'clock, they're setting up. And look, the laser show and water shows from 8:30 to about 9. But I was walking back from various pubs at various hours of the night, and this was still going strong. Late into the evening, so a very, very, very happy community.
Mm-hmm.
And very safe too.
Yes. Okay.
So one of my great passions that I've written and spoken about previously is wherever I go on my travels, I like to try and find a hidden bar, and so I will walk the streets of wherever I am, sometimes very late at night, and I'll look for the signs. It might be someone standing out the front with a cigarette, and I'm thinking, what are they just doing there? Might be a throb of music, and that this just looked a little bit too vibrant for the street that I was on. It was very old, back alley, old workshops, those sort of Chinese shops with the clanking steel doors that come together.
Yeah.
And then there was this, excuse me. So I tried to open the doors and nothing happened. And to the right of me, there was a table with an old sewing machine and some bowls, and I thought there must be something here. I tried turning the sewing machine, and then on the left there was a drum. I thought, oh, okay. So I grabbed the, whatever you call the stick is that you bang a drum with, and I banged the drum a few times, and I waited for the door to open, and nothing happened. I thought, I don't know what's going on here. And then the wall to the right of the door opened up, and a man went out with a big smile and welcomed me in. I'd discovered the secret to his secret bar.
And to this,
Yeah.
is it like a bar or?
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
all right. Okay.
Yep, a little bar. So, I think I just had a tiger beer in the end. After a
Okay.
bit. But yeah, it's one of the great things, and Kuching has got quite a few secret bars that are worth discovering.
Nice.
Less happy to discover this at the time, but appreciated it once I got a safe distance away. So we've now travelled to Bako National Park, which is slightly, I guess, to the northeast of Kuching, probably about an hour's drive, and then about maybe half an hour in a boat, and all sorts of trails for different abilities, boardwalks or sort of trekking trails, if you feel like slipping and sliding when it's nice and wet. Excuse me. And this is a glorious resident of Bako National Park, known as the highly venomous pit viper.
Pit viper, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd walk past and seen, I think it's a she, I'd seen her sitting there, and then I returned back to have another look, and she was still in that position. So I don't think it's an intention to strike. It looks like it to us. But I think she was quite calm and relaxed as long as we didn't get too close.
Yeah, as if it threatened or anything. Yeah, okay.
There we go, the proboscis monkey. and its big nose isn't its only feature. So was really lucky to get so close to a proboscis monkey. I'd earlier seen a few further off in the tree that you sort of struggle to see, and then okay, there it is, but you know none of your photos are going to work because it's just too far away. And this fella was just a couple of metres away, and I had a wonderful opportunity. I took these photos just on my own. It was at the end of some mangroves where some boats were going to pick up a few of us, and I'd gone ahead and was on my own, was able to get these pictures and have my little moment with Mr. Proboscis before a few other people rolled up. And it's a lesson that we all need to remember when we travel, to leave only footprints and take only pictures. Immediately there was a couple who came down, and the lady wasn't happy with that the fact that there were twigs and sticks in the proboscis monkey's face for the photos, so she was shaking branches to get a reaction and get it to move, and it's just horrible. And even now I regret that I didn't say something, that I didn't say, please don't do that, you don't need to do that. This is a wonderful opportunity to just sit and watch. Take a photo if you want, but just watch. Don't try and change the behaviour by changing the environment. So I was disappointed to see that sort of thing happened, but hopefully in time they learn the lesson as well. But it was a beautiful moment. And this as well, 2 horseshoe crabs. There's the smaller male and the bigger female, and it was wonderful just to be able to touch the shell. We gently, at this point, this was another example of bad behaviour. So we gently lifted it up, and perhaps we shouldn't have done that either, just to see underneath. But we gently put it back, and then walking away, a guy came down. He didn't want to touch it with his hand, so he kicked it over with his foot, which was just too much. And it separated the male and the female, and off they went separately and changed, whatever was going to happen there. But these are the experiences within a national park that I've never seen so much wildlife in a national park in all of my experiences, and I've been so fortunate. If we think of just within Malaysia, travelling through Royal Belum and trekking jungles of Sabah and things like that, but to have so much so close in just a one-day adventure, and wild boars and silverleaf monkeys and all sorts of things. It was just beautiful. Was just a great day out. So there we go. I think I mentioned the Sunset Cruise before. So that was doing that with Sarawak Tourism. So there's the legislature at Sunset, and the amazing thing with any Borneo sunset is there's no filter there. There's no autocorrect or adding vibrancy or anything like that. That's just the orange of a Borneo sunset. It's just beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah.
Should we just look at that for another half an hour? I'm happy to watch that. There we go. That's what everybody wants the opportunity to see, isn't it? Is an orangutan.
Attraction,
yeah, just a remarkable, animal, and very lucky to be able to see them as well, and to see them healthy and thriving in beautiful jungle. So there's good opportunities in Sarawak to visit orangutan rehab centres and explore other parts of the jungle where orangutans are found as well.
Excellent.
Okay, little picture plan. So I think this little one. I took a picture of maybe 4 or 5 different varieties of picture plan. And I think it's a great reminder when you walk through the jungle that you don't need to see an orangutan to see something that is beautiful and special. And taking the time to slow down and look around you. Something like that is just a miracle of nature. And it was quite small, probably not much bigger than my thumb.
You have to really see around you and to notice it. Is it?
Yeah. And it's it's no different if we get time and we talk about what travel people should be doing in WA at the moment. We're coming upon our wildflower season, and while you can look for the fields of wildflowers, there's also adventures to be had looking for the orchids. which are very small and delicate, and no bigger than this little picture plant.
Yeah.
There we go. Back to the grim and gruesome, the reality of particularly Sarawak. Having headhunters and a headhunter history, and learning about that. So that's another part of your journey in Sarawak that you can discover as well.
Is it in like a longhouse or is it part of a
part of a longhouse?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I really enjoyed most about Kuching are the trail of murals that you can discover, and I think the great thing about a mural is it gets you walking. It gets you walking down streets that you wouldn't otherwise have gone to in your taxi or with a tour guide, that sort of thing. But if you can get yourself a map or just use your search engine to say, what murals are around, and find 10 or 12 and work out how you're going to walk between them all, it's a great way to discover the community that you're visiting. And Kuching has beautiful murals throughout the city that represent local identities, sometimes orangutans as well, but they're certainly using up spaces of buildings really well.
That's beautiful. Wow, this is probably the last one.
So this was really just to provide you and myself with a reminder of what happened on Monday night. So whether we're post-pandemic or still in a pandemic, some things are resuming, and Tourism Malaysia held their roadshow on Monday night. They haven't been here for a couple of years. I still miss the fact that they used to have their office here in Perth, but they've relocated to Sydney. But it was wonderful to have them back. And we also had the company of the Consul General and numerous people representing the states of Malaysia who came down and spoke to local media and travel agents and other industry people about what the upcoming strategies are for travel to Malaysia, and reminding people that it is a safe destination, always has been, and some of the strategies coming up to focus on the environment and things like that. So it was a good opportunity to reconnect with old friends, but also connect with new ones as well. The invitation did say and +1, and I don't have an assistant working for me. He doesn't get paid, but he is my son. I took my son Tom, and so while I was connecting, he was collecting. We've got fortune cookies and notebooks and proboscis monkeys and all sorts of stuff. So.
Well, talking about Tourism Malaysia, what is your involvement with them? Do you need to write an article, do a promotion with Tourism Malaysia?
Look, they've supported me a lot over the years with what's called Media for Mills, where I will go to Malaysia for them to visit destinations that they want promoted, or other times if I'm going up there for something else, a client might be a hotel. But I want some on-the-ground support. Tourism Malaysia have always been grateful with being able to provide support as well. So all I seek to do in terms of what we do with Tourism Malaysia is try and make sure that the strategies they've got are what I feel I can contribute to with my writing and storytelling, and that it fits in line with the way Australians are travelling. And one of the questions I had on Monday night in a Q&A with the Consul General and Tourism Malaysia and Summit Tourism was around the strategies of getting people up to Malaysia, but also building into that an understanding of the caution that people have for travelling at the moment. So maybe not saying come up and spend 2 or 3 weeks travelling around all of Malaysia and seeing everything, but maybe just as a first step, Perth is only 5 hours away. You could do it as a long weekend. So let's do some short-term strategies, some short travel, get people on a plane on Friday, fly up to KL and shop at Bukit Bintang, or take a flight straight to Kuching and go and look at orangutans for a weekend, something like that. So pick an adventure or pick some shopping, pick something to do in Malaysia and do that and come back and go, gee, that wasn't so bad after all. Next time I travel, I'll do it for longer. And I think that's the space we're in at the moment, where people do want to travel, but they probably don't want to travel for as long, and they probably don't want to transit too much either.
Yeah.
They want to fly directly to a destination, stay there, then come home.
They come home. Yeah, I mean, talking about tourism Malaysia, we are lucky because Encik Fikri, Ahmad Fikri Zakian, who is the Consul General of Malaysia, is willing to talk to us tonight. Let me just ring him to just say hello, and probably he can say a few words about promotional or the Tourism Malaysia promotions or initiatives.
Hello. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello, Fikri, how are you?
How are you, Chris? How are you, Miss DJ Imran?
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for accepting our call, Mr. Zakian.
It's always a pleasure, mate.
So we had a great chat about Chris' experience in Sarawak, and about the Monday's event, the roadshow. Do you have anything to say to add to the points brought up by Chris about visiting Malaysia? What are the restrictions that are still there, and what could be people here missing if they don't go to Malaysia?
Wow, thank you, Mr. Imran, for having me tonight. And to Chris Parry, thank you so much. You speak highly about Malaysia, and I'm very happy with that. Of course, I think Chris Parry has been a very good friend to Malaysia and to the consulate. He has been traveling a lot to Malaysia, more than me, and he's been able to share positive stories about Malaysia, about states of Malacca. You have to have a copy of his article about Malacca, DJ Imran, and maybe we can publish it in our respective social media, right?
Oh yeah,
and,
sure.
Yeah, Chris is doing his part to promote Malaysia, and we can do our part to help and promote Chris Parry in Western Australia.
Thank you.
Yeah, so my comment, yes, of course, Tourism Malaysia and delegation and entourage led by Mr. Nur Azlan Abu Bakar, the Senior Deputy Director from the International Promotion Divisions, along with Miss Caddy, or formerly known as Puan Siti Hadijah Arifin, the newly appointed Deputy Director of our Tourism Malaysia Sydney. They were here for a tourism roadshow to Australia from 21st to 27th of August. So the first stop was in Perth, and they have been able to organize a short exhibition and also a dinner for all the tour operators and journalists of Western Australia on last Monday, I think on the 24th of August, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Okay.
So the purpose of it is none other than to reconnect, DJ Imran, to reconnect and to create partnership with all the travel partners in Western Australia, and of course to enhance the tourist arrivals into Malaysia. And I would say that, as Chris Parry mentioned just now, we are just 5 hours away from between us. So Australia has been one of the top market sources for Malaysia in terms of tourist arrival. In fact, I think in 2019 we have welcomed about over 360,000 Australian tourists from to Malaysia. That is about I think about 80% of Australian tourists came to Malaysia for holidays. And in terms of the travel restrictions, I would say that there are no longer travel restrictions for international travelers. As of 1st August this month, I think early this month, Malaysia has announced that we have relaxed all the entry procedures for fully vaccinated travelers, where travelers will they don't have to undergo quarantine or doing the pre-departure or on arrival PCR test. Yeah. So that has been removed totally.
Is
That
there,
has been totally.
Figure,
Yeah.
do you know if there's still a requirement to have there's an app that I know a couple of weeks ago I had to download and then upload all of my details. Do you still need to have the Malaysian app?
Yes. Although My Sejahtera app, they call it My Sejahtera app. It is
Yep.
similar like your
Like,
COVID COVID ID. I think. What's the app that you use now for
Ah.
WA using?
in Australia, I think that the MyGov.
The MyGov.
Yeah.
The MyGov app. It is similar like that.
Yep.
Although it's no longer needed, but personally, I would like to encourage travelers to install it in your phone and to upload your the copy of your vaccination certificate if you have it.
Yep.
You see, they just want to see the record.
Yeah.
But you don't have to fill up the My Sejahtera app 3 days before departure or 2 days before departure. It's no longer required, Chris.
Yep. Very good. Yeah.
Um,
I thought that in the Q&A that I was in with yourself and Tourism Malaysia and Sabah Tourism, you spoke very well in supporting the strategies for people to come up. What do you think about what I've spoken earlier on tonight about in terms of trying to overcome the caution of Australians to travel and trying to get them to Malaysia for maybe a shorter period of time, particularly here in WA, where with that 5-hour flight we can go up for a weekend and be back again for work on a Monday or Tuesday.
That's right, Chris. I think you have voiced up a very excellent idea to the Tourism Malaysia director, and during our press conference last Monday, I think it's good to promote short-term travel package to Malaysia. We go for low hanging fruits first.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is do the holiday for short long weekend, like Friday. You take one day off, Friday, and then you spend 2 nights in Malaysia, and then fly back to Australia on Sunday.
Yep. And I think it's always important with Malaysian people to put it in terms of food. So for me, it's almost like we want to give them the entree and we save the buffet for later.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Correct.
You are on the dot. Your point is on the dot, Chris. And one thing I noticed, since I've been here for 2 years and 6 months, Chris, DJ Imran.
Yeah.
One I noticed about our two countries, our people, we do have one thing in common, which is we have equal love for food. So Malaysia actually is not only known for its tourist destinations, I would say, and also shopping heaven, but we also have a lot of food for you to fulfill your eating desire.
Yeah.
And like what Chris mentioned when you had this, some presentation about the photos of Sarawak just now, I can see that what you were saying about the food, the laksa Sarawak, the Sarawak noodle, the famous Sarawak noodle.
Yep.
I think that's not the only noodle available in Sarawak, Chris.
I
You should try.
I better go back and try them all.
There are two other famous noodles in Sarawak. One is mee kolok. The first one is laksa Sarawak. The second one is mee kolok. The third most preferred is mee Jawa.
Okay.
Jawa noodle. Yeah, although it's called Jawa noodle, it's not from Java. It's from Malaysia.
Yeah.
Made by a genuine Malaysian cook. Yeah. And like you mentioned just now, the waterfront view, the Sarawak Borneo Convention Center and Legislative Area. The place is actually one of the top spot for foreign tourists to go and have have a walk and enjoy the scenery.
Yep.
During the sunset or even at night, it's alive over there. I've been in Sarawak for almost 18 years. Even my other half is from Sarawak, So waterfront is one of the must see or must experience destination for foreign travelers
Yeah.
because it's alive 24 hours
Mhm.
and you can easily find the hawker's food around at that time. You see, and even if you visit KL, you can always find a nasi lemak stall or even mama shop in any corner of the street because it's open at any time of the day,
Yeah.
and the price is very reasonable,
Mhm.
and you can never go hungry in KL. And one thing, Chris, one point that I wish to pitch is also, we share no time difference with Perth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brilliant point.
Yeah, you can travel early in the morning, arrive at 7 o'clock in Malaysia, do your thing, do your business or what, and then go for sightseeing. And if you have no time to travel to spend in Malaysia, just spend one day, go sightseeing, and then take the next flight in the evening or
And
mid-evening.
and Fikri, I'm 50 years old, and I don't know how to change the time on my G-Shock. So the opportunity to fly somewhere and not have to worry about changing the time on my watch is reason enough to get to that country.
That's right, and I'm very happy that you have been able to make your way into Sarawak and Malaysia, Chris.
Yeah.
Because so far so long as I'm here, I never seen Australians like your good self write positive thing about the country, especially the tourism spot there.
Mhm.
So I'm really happy actually that you have been able to tell the story to all your Australian friends that Malaysia is safe, a safe place to travel. We are always open, not only for business but for tourists. And then I think one of the main point also, Australians, you have excellent, you have purchasing power due
Yeah,
to the high
yeah.
currency value.
Yes.
So that's one point. Rather than having to travel to, other parts of the world,
Yep.
taking 18 hours flight, connecting flights here and there. Going to Malaysia is only 5 hours, so
Yep.
you save your time, you save your energy. You're not going to experience jet lag, and most importantly, you don't have to change your watch.
That's right.
Yeah,
You hit the ground running.
Clearly, there's so many benefits you listed down, Mr. Zakian. More reasons to go, and
More
yeah, I feel like going back. Buying ticket right now.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Zakian, for the sharing and sharing the experience, and also inshallah we will have you on studio on one of the topics in the future that's related to Malaysians here, or the community, or tourism perhaps, inshallah.
Thank you so much to Mawa and Chris Parry. I hope to see you soon again. And I wish to take this opportunity to share that on 31st of August, I know it's working day, the consulate is organizing a small flag raising ceremony at the Malaysia Hall. So we are expecting to commence around 10 o'clock.
Mhm.
Just a get together flag raising ceremony, the Negaraku anthem, and makan-makan, like Chris Parry said. It's a tradition, to makan-makan.
Makan.
So if you're free, just drop by, and we will be very happy to have you, and for you to celebrate the occasion with us.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Fikri, just before you go, when I was in Sarawak,
Correct.
Kevin from Sarawak Tourism had a great laugh at my expense for the way I say thank you in Malaysian. And I think it's about time you guys judged it, because he said that it sounded like I was saying tear up my car seat. I think the way I say terima kasih is quite good,
Yeah.
but he thought I was just saying tear up my car seat.
No, I think you pronounce it well. You pronounce terima kasih well.
Thank you. Well, big thumbs down to Kevin.
Yeah, yes. I will surely pass it over to Kevin later.
I will.
If I meet him, yeah, in Kuching.
Mr. Zakian, thank you so much again. Hope to have you on studio in the future, and wish you all the best. And yes, for those who's available on 31st of August, please feel free to come over to Malaysia Hall for small celebrations of Independence Day, Malaysian Independence Day.
Correct.
Yeah.
You are united. And thank you, Radio Melayu Perth, for having me.
Thank you. Encik Ahmad Fikri.
Cheers, mate.
See ya.
See ya. Assalamualaikum.
Bye.
Waalaikumsalam. Bye. Yeah, that was Mr. Ahmad Fikri Zakian, the Consul General of Malaysia in Perth. Right. Well, we have a very lengthy discussion, which is good, excellent, about Malaysia and Singapore earlier. But now we come back to Australia. We come back here, and a couple of months ago, they I saw on TV, that the airports are all around Australia were in a state of chaos, and luggage delays, lost, flight cancellations, and I thought to myself, oh man, their travel plans must have been ruined. So what's your thought on that?
Look, it's a tough industry at the moment. If we look at the people that work in the travel industry, excuse me, before the pandemic, it was a bit of a 50-50 split between Australian workers and international workers, made up of backpackers and international students who would be sort of working as well. So we don't have that workforce. So there's a lot of tourism businesses struggling at the moment. That's also seen in the airline industry as well, with inconsistent flights and with issues with baggage handlers as well. If you think of an airport and you think who must be the hardest working people in an airport, there can't be anyone harder working than a baggage handler, getting our bags on and getting them off.
Yeah.
There's a shortage of baggage handlers around the world at the moment. So certainly in Australia, and certainly if you're travelling overseas at the moment, my big number one travel ticket list item is carry your carry-on, and that's it. Don't check in a bag. It makes it easier for the existing resources at the airport. It makes it easier for yourself. You're not going to risk having a delay which might go as far as weeks and months trying to get your bag back. We've all seen the horror stories in the media where the only way someone's got their bag back has been by having one of the fancy electronic tags that you can put in your bag. Excuse me. But wherever possible, I would just encourage you to just have carry-on. Even that in itself is proving difficult as well. One of the flights I took recently, there was a call for people to put their cabin baggage in the belly of the plane to have it checked in for no cost because they knew that it was going to be overfilled in the overhead storage, even business class as well. So that's one of the things I've certainly noticed flying is the cabin baggage area is filling up. But certainly with the issues with baggage handlers at the moment, it's a real problem. That inconsistency with flights. The other issue we've got with our travel industry at the moment is that two of our biggest markets, China and Japan, are still under heavy restriction for their own people to become international travellers again. So we're not seeing them return. So we are reliant at the moment in WA on that domestic market, and it's one of the things which I think has been, if we're going to find any positives throughout the pandemic, it's been the opportunity to discover our own backyard and to take advantage of things that you might have thought, oh yeah, I'll get around to doing that one day, and you never have. And whether it's a wildflower tour up through the Midwest of Western Australia, or just discovering within Perth a park you've never been to before, to find wildflowers next month. I've been doing some walks recently, and it's just amazing the flowers that are starting to come out. It's going to be a bumper year. Kings Park's always beautiful. It's also always crowded at wildflower season. Call your local shire or local visitor centre and ask what the parks are around you that might have wildflowers. I'll give you an example. Star Swamp. If you know Trig Beach on the West Australian coast in Perth, just north of Scarborough, there is a Mount Flora lookout and a local history museum there. Beautiful lookout of the Indian Ocean. Just back from there is Star Swamp. If you have a look on your search engine, it's a pretty small bit of bush, but it's one of the best places in the metropolitan area to see wildflowers.
Oh, right.
So have a look in your own backyard, see what's close that you can discover as well. If you can get out and about, make sure that where possible you stay a night somewhere. Just make that journey that little bit longer, and just think about the influence that has on a local economy. If you're staying in the pub of a country town and buying a pie at the local bakery, filling up your petrol, that's all it takes to make a contribution to the tourism economy, and you're getting out and about and seeing part of this amazing state.
What is your tips on wildflower hunting? I mean, I'm not a plant person, right? But I see it's beautiful flowers there, but how do you know what it is and how do you research it?
Look, I'm no plant expert either, and I think sometimes you're going to struggle for internet access while you're there.
Yeah.
So maybe the best thing you can do is take all your photos and then do your research when you come back.
Yeah.
And you might find that some of the things you take photos of are just weeds. But generally as well, if you're going to go where other people are going, then look at what they're taking photos of as well.
Yeah.
But you'll find that sometimes it doesn't matter what it is. Canola is just a crop, that the farmers put in the fields, and it's one of the most photographed, sort of flowers, fields of flowers that we have in Western Australia. Once a canola's out in the Great Southern and the wheat belt, everybody wants to walk into a canola field and have a selfie surrounded by yellow. It's not a delicate, dainty orchid in a forest, but sometimes it doesn't matter what it is, just if it looks good. But I think if you're looking at research, the best thing to do is just take the photos and then when you come back and see what you've discovered. I think it's like that wherever we go. We take pictures and sometimes do the research when we come home.
Yeah, just enjoy the view and take photos as much as you can, and probably it's good Instagrammable snap that you got.
And you don't have to worry. It's not like the those big Rafflesia flowers. If you touch it and they die. Our wildflowers won't die if you touch them, but it's better if you don't touch them, and certainly don't pick them. Leave them where they are. Take a picture of it and then walk away.
Right. Yes. How long does the wildflowers last?
Well, I think if we say that the official start to spring, and that's not taking into account Aboriginal seasons, but from a Western point of view, first day of spring is first day of September. We've had a lot of rain and we're starting to get some sunshine, so the indications are it's going to be a really good wildflower season, bumper crop you might say of wildflowers. So you would expect that, particularly through the Midwest or Western Australia and through our parks in metropolitan areas, you'll start seeing good bursts of flowers within the next 2 weeks, and probably they'll last through until late October in a lot of areas, because I suspect we're still going to get some rainfall as well. So late October, maybe even into early November, you'll be able to see some wildflowers. So there are some good opportunities to turn a weekend into a long weekend and go on a wildflower safari.
School holidays probably another 2 or 3 weeks away. For those with children, you can start your plans now.
Or just do a weekend trip.
Yeah, just a weekend. Yeah, we can.
So if you look at even around the Avon Valley, you're looking at an hour to an hour and a half to get out to 2J and to York and places like that. Plenty of cafes open where you can get your family a lunch, or a big rock on a hill to have a picnic, and lots of creeks and bush that you can safely explore. and make sure everyone's got a camera or a phone, and take all the pictures and share them when you get back.
Yes.
See who's got the best picture.
Yeah. Hidden treasures.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. We already 1 hour in our show, and that's great tips and sharing that you've got throughout the show, the past 1 hour. Is there anything else you would like to add to our audience out there?
Look, I think for anyone listening who it's understandable that there's still caution about travel. And it's not my job to say, get out there and experience the world. If we hadn't had a pandemic, I would say that. I would love to just say, come on, it's time to get on a plane and visit, or get in the car and have a long weekend somewhere. But I understand what it's like. I understand that the caution is very real. So when you are ready and you do travel, enjoy it. There's always anxiety when we travel, but just make sure that you lessen the anxiety by planning as much as possible. We heard the Consul General talk about the app and those sorts of things, and there's still that need for verification. Governments in all countries are wanting to see that you are vaccinated, that you've done the right thing. So, look after yourself, do the right thing, do the things that you should always do in a country anyway, and abide by the rules and regulations. And it's not going to stop you from having a good time, particularly in destinations like Malaysia.
Thank you for the tips and advice. Well, that's the end of our first episode, Travel in a Post-Pandemic World with Chris Parry. We'll have more series in the next week at the same time with different topics. We need building a positive community. So it's definitely a great start to talk about travel with Chris tonight. Before we go into a more heavy topics, but it's still relevant, it's still needed with different guests, different experts. Stay tuned to our Facebook page, Radio Melayu Perth, and we have our own or separate YouTube channel for this one, which is a community HQ. This channel is basically run by the team at Radio Melayu Perth as well, but it's all in English, and it's basically an initiative that's supported by Office of Multicultural Interest for us to outreach the community in a positive way. So thank you for joining us tonight, listening to the sharing by Chris. Thank you, Chris, again for sharing.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. It's not
Terima kasih,
not that one, but you pronounce it correctly. And we'll hope to see you next week with a different topic, which we'll be announcing on our Facebook page and also YouTube as well. So my name is DJ Wan, assisted by Fauzi, DJ Force behind the scene. Good night and enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. See ya.